In this video, we're going to take a look at the Mnemosyne Singularity. So let's jump straight to the end with my thoughts on this pen. This pen, it's a shame that it's not made anymore because such an affordable, great writing, entry-level pen. And again, it is really a shame that it's not made anymore. It did have a couple of downsides. Now, there's been more than a few times where when going to unscrew the cap, I unscrewed the cap body because of how the pen's made. And, you know, that can happen. But that was a downside in how they made it. And I have heard of some people cracking the body because it is a plastic body and people have screwed it in too tight. So for that, it has a little bit down about being a starter pen. However, I think this pen works really nicely. I've never had a problem with this pen, no matter what ink I put into it. It is a solid performer that I just think the market misses a pen that is this good at such an entry-level price. I'm glad I have it, and I don't see this being a pen that I would stop using because it is a good pen, even though the plastic does have a tendency to feel a little bit cheaper. Now that we know how I feel about the Mnemosyne Singularity, let's see how I got to that opinion, starting with the unboxing. The Mnemosyne Singularity came in a box like this. This is a very inexpensive plastic-made pen, and the packaging, I'm going to say, reflects it in that the packaging very much keeps the cost of this pen down to where it's not any kind of a problem. This isn't something you need a fancy presentation box for. With the pen out of the box, we need to get to the nib. And as long as it doesn't take 20 turns to uncap a pen, I'm generally okay. But how many turns does it take to uncap this pen? The Mnemosyne Singularity takes 1.5 turns to uncap. At only 1.5 turns to uncap, I do find this to be a really good pen for students because if you're capping and uncapping frequently to take notes, 1.5 turns for most people is probably fine. It's not past that, 2 turns that's god-awful. So I can definitely say that this works in every way it should. This gets us to the nib. This pen has a steel fine nib. Having seen that nib picture, the scroll work that is on the Mnemosyne nibs makes them worthwhile to get a hold of if you can get a hold of them on the aftermarket, because they are very interesting looking just in their design. If you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Now, let's ink this pen up. The Mnemosyne Singularity is a standard international cartridge or converter pen and holds approximately 0.7 milliliters of ink. The ink for today is Sailor's Soleil. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a standard international converter, which is not my favorite. However, back to the point of the cost of this pen at the time they were made, I don't have a problem with it in this case because it's an inexpensive pen, and I would go with the most inexpensive option to keep it inexpensive. It's a good pen. I just don't like the converters. As a habit, I don't normally post my pens, but some people prefer to post their pens, and some pens need to be posted in order to be used comfortably. This pen can post. It posts fairly well. It's nice and deep, secure. It has a cap band to help protect it. It's nice in the hand. It's not any kind of a problem. Unposted, it's long enough to be comfortable. So I did post it because of how light this pen was. But since they no longer make the pen and there were cracking issues with this pen, I don't post it anymore. I'm glad it's got that metal band on the body and on the cap to help protect it, because I would like to see this pen last for as long as possible, because I think a lot of them really cracked. Now, the important part, the writing sample. This is a very light pen in the hand, and for some people that might be a little bit of a problem. It is very light. That being said, it is made from a plastic, and being this light and being made from this plastic can make it feel cheap. I don't see it as a cheap pen, although they were very inexpensive to get. I say that because cheap has this sounding like that's how it's made, like it's not made well. This is a very well-made pen that works incredibly well. The writing experience is very nice. This fine nib has a little bit of feedback, which I enjoy on the pen. It's good. I'm hoping that they don't die out in the aftermarket due to cracking in the body. That, I think, is the only concern for this pen. And in fact, this is the type of pen that personally I could see the survivors for this pen years from now actually being something that matters in the market, because since it's really just a workaday type pen, it's not something people think of as the collector's piece. I do think some of these pens are kind of a collector's piece, because there is a beauty to keeping them as simple as possible and manufacturing them in a way that anybody can get them without straining their wallet. This isn't $100, nowhere near that, when you could actually get them. I'm hoping someone recreates this pen, because it's very worthwhile. Bring this back. Now for something a bit more standard in comparing writing size. I use Namiki Blue to do this. Now here it is with a Yovo Extra Fine on the left, medium in the middle, and a 1.1 stub on the right. The nib gives us exactly as we would expect with a fine nib, being a Western fine. So as it was an entry-level pen, that made it very good to get exactly what you expect. But how does it compare in looking at the writing of a Nemosine Singularity with a fine nib? Here it is next to a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet fine nib, a Jinhao 51A with a fine nib, a TWSBI Vac Mini with a fine nib, and then of course we're going to get a TWSBI Mini Fine, and a Kaweco 475 with a Vintage Flex. So it isn't a review without some... Here it is capped. Here it is uncapped. And here it is posted. The size of the pen I would call very much an average size for a fountain pen. Its weight is very light, so I do think it is very good for somebody starting out in fountain pens. I have no idea what they would go for in the aftermarket since they haven't been made in quite some time. At this point, we have a dirty pen that we need to clean. Be sure to check out the next pen review where we're going to take a look at the Jinhao X750.
Do you find that it's hard to read sometimes when the light's just not good enough? Can you just not see what's written on the page? Have I got the deal for you? Reading glasses. That's right, for just the low price of $87.50. It's inflation, old man. Prices have gone up. You can have your very own set of reading glasses delivered to you. It's time to face it, you're getting older, so act now.
If you want to be able to support not just my channel, but any reviewer, then when you make a purchase, be sure to tell that retailer where you heard about it. Thanks for watching.